Hello, or namaskar as you might say in India, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be comparing the BSA Gold Star with the Royal Enfield Interceptor. These are true British icons that are now being made in India. So today I'm putting them head to head and seeing which is the better buy. So let's start off by comparing the styling of these two bikes. They're both very beautiful, classically designed motorcycles, and there's bits that I love about each of them, some more than others on each bike. So I wouldn't say I prefer the look of one over the other. Some of you may do, so let me know down in the comments section below which you think's better looking. The BSA's lines are very smooth. You've got this very rounded fuel tank. Everything flows very nicely, and this front mudguard is absolutely stunning. The Royal Enfield has a bit more sort of features in the tank there. The engine is much more classic looking on the Royal Enfield, and I think that is a better looking engine personally. The exhaust I prefer on the BSA. I think that's a beautiful design. So there's bits on each that look better than others, but overall they're both fantastic looking. The forks on the front, the forks are nicer on the BSA personally, rather than having that rubber tubing on there, which I don't know the name of it, but I don't like it. And also you've got piggyback shocks on the Royal Enfield, which are in anodised gold. If they were in black, they'd look a lot nicer. Obviously you don't have that on the BSA, so there's another thing to think about. Now, before I carry on with this video, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps us out with the YouTube algorithm massively, and it will help us get the new bikes sooner. I'm hoping to be reviewing the new Super Meteor 650 very soon, so I'll keep you guys posted on that. Also, if you don't already know, we are on Instagram and we do have a Facebook page as well. We're more active on Instagram, so you can follow us on there at Mr. Darcy and the Old Man. I'll put our handle up on the screen now, so go and do that now. Now, I came off of both of these bikes with a big grin on my face, so that's always a good sign. They both are absolutely a joy to ride. In terms of ride quality, the suspension I think is a little bit better on the Royal Enfield. It soaks up the bumps very nicely, and on the country lanes it's just very smooth to ride, whereas this is a little bit more jumpy over the bumps, so you do feel them a little bit more, and it can sort of throw you about a bit, which is not so comfortable. This particular Interceptor does have the touring seat, so that might have contributed slightly to me thinking that, but I definitely do think its suspension is a bit better on this one. Now, in terms of the engines, the Interceptor produces about 47 horsepower, whereas the BSA produces about 45 peak, and the torque, you've got 55 on the BSA and about 52 point something on the Royal Enfield. Can you feel a difference when you're riding it? Absolutely not. You're not going to feel, you know, 1 or 2 Newton meters or horsepower. It doesn't make a huge difference. So in terms of the oomph that they produce, it feels exactly the same. So as I say, power wise, they feel the same. Experience wise, it's quite different because you've got a big single on the BSA and you've got a twin on the Royal Enfield. And there's very much a lot of personal preference going on there, whether you prefer a big twin. If you do prefer a big twin, you'll prefer the BSA. If you prefer a twin, you'll prefer the Royal Enfield. I don't really have a preference. I think they're both fantastic engines. These particular bikes, the BSA, they've taken the baffles out of that exhaust, so it's still the standard exhaust, and that sounds incredible. Really nice sound. And this Interceptor has got S&S slip-ons, and it's had a air filter upgrade, etc. So they're both sounding a bit fruitier than they do standard, which does help give you that experience. So I found myself enjoying it even more because of the beautiful sound, which hopefully has picked up on camera. But I don't know whether I had a preference over one or the other. They both have lots of character. Both gearboxes have got character to them. They're not just, you know, completely smooth. You know, they've got some clunks and bits of character. Both sound absolutely fantastic, but in different ways. You let me know in the comments below which one of these bikes sounds better. It's hard for me to make a decision on that. In terms of the brakes, stopping power is relatively similar between the two bikes. If you find yourself doing an emergency stop, I think the BSA brakes, the Brembos that are on these, are a little bit better, so you might stop slightly quicker than you would on the Royal Enfield. The fuel tanks on each bike, you've got a 12 litre on the BSA and a 13.7 on the Royal Enfield. Fuel economy, BSA say it will do just over 70 miles per gallon, and Royal Enfield say the Interceptor will do 67, so there's not a huge difference there. In terms of weight, the wet weights with all the lubricants and liquids in the bikes, the Royal Enfield weighs 217 kilograms, the BSA is 213. So there's so very little difference in between those two. You can't feel any difference when you're manoeuvring them about at all. 5 kilograms is not going to make much of a difference. Is that right? 30, 40, 50, 60, 4 kilograms. I need to go back to school. In terms of handling, I think the Royal Enfield feels a little bit more sure in the corners, so I felt that I could poke it into the corners a bit better, whereas the BSA, I think because of the harder suspension around the bumpy country lanes, was a little bit less sure in the corners than the Royal Enfield, but only very fractionally. Both of these bikes come standard with pillion capability, so you can take a pillion on the back. I haven't done so, I can't tell you how they compare in that kind of sense. The BSA has a side stand the Interceptor has a side stand and a centre stand, which I've got it on the centre stand now, so that's definitely something nice to have, and you might miss it on the BSA. Also, while I'm just looking at it, everyone keeps moaning about the radiator on the BSA, and when you have it next to the Interceptor, which has a tiny little radiator there, I can see what you mean. It does look better having a sleeker one. It's not the end of the world, but it would obviously look nicer having a smaller radiator on there, but there's not much they can do about that with the way this bike works. It needs it to be that big, so it's just one of those things. But yeah, the Interceptor looks nicer in that area. The dials on both of these bikes, they're both analog. Which do I prefer? Now, the Royal Enfield perhaps looks a little bit better quality. The needles are, you know, a bit more metal in there, a bit more sturdy looking. Both very beautiful, classic looking dials, which is like what I like to see. Headlamps look relatively similar. Indicators. These indicators are much nicer on the BSA, much more sleek. I don't like the look of these indicators on the front here. Not my style, personally. The mirrors, relatively similar size, so I can't really see much out of either of these mirrors. They're almost hopeless for me. So anyone with slightly wide shoulders, who's a bit tall like me, is probably going to struggle a little bit. They could do with being a little bit further out or a little bit wider, and then I'd be able to see a bit more. So not the greatest mirrors on either of these bikes. Price wise in the UK, both of these bikes are around the £6,500 mark, depending on the colour, etc. And that puts you in a bit of a predicament, because it's not like one's £3 grand more, so that will help you out in making a decision. When they're priced so you know, head to head, that makes it even harder in my opinion. Now, in terms of how long the brands have been about, Royal Enfield have obviously got a much higher production number. They're probably churning out, you know, 800,000 bikes a year, whereas BSA, you know, maybe only 1,000. So they're producing a lot less bikes, and that might put some people off because they're a bit worried about, you know, if something goes wrong with it, how are they going to get it sorted? How are they going to get parts quick enough? Because these bikes are, you know, hard to get hold of at the moment, and some customers who've ordered them months ago still haven't got their bikes. Whereas Royal Enfield, you can walk into any dealer and just buy one right now. Whether it's second hand or new, they've probably got one around, or if you did order one, it probably not take very long, whereas this is taking a lot longer. So that might be a deciding factor for you, but it really depends which one you fall in love with more. So, you might be hoping that I'll give you a definitive answer, which bike would I pick? I'm really struggling. I love both of these bikes. They both made me really happy. I really enjoyed riding both of them. So in an ideal world, I'd go out and buy both. But that's unrealistic, and that's not really going to happen for many of you. I know there are some people who have bought both, but for the majority of customers, they're going to be looking at one or the other. Definitely, if you're thinking about buying one of these, come down to Cooperb Motorcycles. They are absolutely fantastic, and they're more than happy for you to take one out on a test drive. So see what you think of it. It may not help you because you'll ride both of them and you'll fall in love with both, like I have. But it's definitely worth giving them both a thorough test ride and see what you think of them. And I'd like to say a big thanks to Cooperb Motorcycles for letting me borrow both of these bikes today, and I've been riding them about for the last few hours. It's been an absolutely brilliant day, so thanks to them. Check them out on social media and give them a follow, and make sure you go down to the dealership and see them in person. Taking another look at these engines, the Royal Enfield engine looks beautiful from both sides, which can be quite rare with motorcycles. Sometimes you get one side that looks lovely and the other side looks rubbish. I actually think the left side looks gorgeous with that gearbox cover. Absolutely gorgeous there. So I really like that. The BSA is a much more modern looking engine. It's a modern twist of a classic engine, and it doesn't look as good at all. When you've got them head to head, it doesn't look as good. And the left side is nowhere near as good looking as on the Royal Enfield. So the engine on that does pip it for me. And I do perhaps prefer the characteristics of the twin. But I love both of these bikes in different ways. So it is still hard for me to choose which one I prefer, because I prefer them in different ways, in different aspects. So yeah, it's a really hard decision. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. It's absolutely free, so why not? And hit the bell icon so you get notified when our new videos go live. As of last night, from the day of filming this video, we hit 70,000 subscribers, so thanks very much to each and every one of you. We appreciate all of you who've subscribed. And I think there's like 80% of you or 90% of you who watch our videos aren't subscribed, so please do. It helps us out massively, and we'd love to be able to reach 100,000 subscribers this year, hopefully sooner than the end of the year, hopefully by summer, but depends how many videos we can do if we get any bikes. But fingers crossed we'll get there, and we'll see you in the next video.